But thank you all for being here. I'm excited. Any new people here for the first time? Oh my goodness. That's great. I want to meet you. I definitely want to meet you. I'm Allison Wise. I'm the Program Director for Diversity and Inclusion. And I'm always excited to see new folks coming into the community and joining us here on our quarterly meetings for 60 plus federal agencies who join us all across. You get to hear from some of your partners today, some great information, and we're gonna just jump right in and get excited. I'm excited, and we have some follow-up from August meeting. So that's where we like to kind of pick up and make sure that we don't just mention something in the August meeting and then we don't hear about it again, right? So we're gonna talk a little bit about that. Let's in our Connect segment, and then we're going to share with you some updates on our part in the Inform on the FEORP, and we'll hear from our office on an internship program called the Career West program. We're sharing some resources with you, and we are going to hear from our recruitment outreach and recruitment policy and outreach program on some offerings that they have and give you some information on the recruitment side of the house. And then we'll hear from our work life and employee engagement folks here at OPM. They have some exciting things to share with the community I think that we can all benefit from. We'd love to share that information with you as well, so we have them coming in. And then to round out our time with you today, we're going to do our Power Up segment. And we hear from you a lot saying we really never have time to engage and have a conversation. And so Natalie and I are going to facilitate a conversation and just provoke some thought with you. We feel like you all are almost our think tank, right? And we don't have an opportunity all the time to really engage with our community, and we want to take that last segment and really engage with you on a topic that we think right now is trending, and we think that we should all really be thinking about in our work as D&I practitioners. So we'll round that out. So if you're leaving early, you're going to miss out. So we save the best for last. All right, so last time, who was here last time? And I know there were some folks who joined us. Okay, awesome. So there were some folks who joined us webcast or actually saw the video last time, and we asked the question, how can we help, right? As practitioners, we're always kind of hearing from you. Natalie shared with you our services, the things that we do, that we provide guidance and best practices and technical assistance and all of that. But we heard specifically from you, and we got that live, right, on menti.com. Do you remember? You kind of put all of that in, and I actually got some emails to say, can I get a list of everything that everybody had submitted? So everybody was sort of intrigued about, what is everybody saying? So we did it live, and we could see everybody's responses up there. So I want to share with you what we saw. And we got over 130 responses in just how many minutes? 5 minutes from you all. And what we did was we bucketed that information into these 5 areas right here. And what you're looking at, I know you all should have a copy of the slides in your email box. So if you can't see it on the screen right now, you'll have a copy of the slides, and you can reflect back on them when you get back to the office if you didn't print those out. But I want to talk about what we heard from you, because what we hear from you actually guides what we do. And we want to make sure that we're intentional with our efforts and sharing with you those things that will help you be successful in maturing your D&I program. So here are some of the things that we saw. We bucketed in these 5 areas: establishing, building, and assessing your D&I program, best practices, benchmarking D&I programs, defining diversity, yeah, we're still doing that, right? And training and certification for D&I practitioners. So in those large bucketed areas, some of the theming responses out of that 136 that we got from you real time in August, this is what we're seeing. We're seeing things on folks who want, let's look at under training and certification, D&I councils, ERGs, business resource groups, affinity groups. ERG leaders are really encouraged to, I want to put a plug for our ERG community of practice. And that's one way that we're really helping ERGs at the federal level thrive within their organizations. Terry Williams on my staff is doing a fantastic job of forming that community of practice and really getting you some good information, and you're able to learn from other practitioners, other ERG leaders and diversity and inclusion program managers, what great things they're doing at their agencies, and we're presenting best practices there as well. We also heard that you want to learn more about trending topics in D&I, right? I think, how do we focus on those? How do we look at those and prepare and be proactive to face some of the challenges that we're seeing in building a 21st century workforce? Anything else there? Let's see what else stands out. It's really hard to see as we're looking at one of the other things was establishing training and education programs back at their office, back in your organizations. And how do we do that in a more comprehensive manner, right? Let's see what else we got. Training and recruitment. So certification for D&I practitioners. So let me talk about that a little bit, because we still continue to hear what can OPM do, right? And so one of the things that we said we were going to introduce in 2020 was a series of remote webinars for all folks to participate in and be inclusive in, and that we are going to offer on various topics, but these aren't going to be topics that you can just take and train on yourself. These are actually to feed the practitioner. So in other words, it would be, how do you establish your business case? What are some ways that you can help get buy-in from senior leaders and those kind of things? So this is not necessarily conducting unconscious bias training from an OPM level, because remember, we don't do that. So, but we're going to basically what we call teach you how to fish, and equip you with more things that you need, the skills that you need to really lead D&I back at your agency. So some of these things that we're hearing are going to help you in your D&I program. But that's what those webinars would focus on, really helping to educate the practitioner. So when you say, what kind of training and certification is available for the practitioner, they're more about awareness sessions, really. And they're going to be like short segments, 30 to 45 minutes, that allow you to, we hope to archive those. But it's really about the care and feeding of the practitioner. That was one of our main priorities last August, not just this past one, I'm talking 2018, that we said we wanted to increase the capacity and raise the efficacy of our practitioners. And that was a main focus and a main priority from our office, as we see the need for that out in the community. And so, so these are just some of the various topics that we saw that we want to be able to focus on and provide you assistance on. And a lot of that is going to touch on the training piece that everyone is really looking for. So let's talk about those topics. This is the webinar series that I rolled out, that I talked about last August in our last meeting. The Inclusive Diversity Education and Awareness Series. And this is something that we can do from our level right now to start beginning the conversation, being a little bit more interactive with you. We want to do this through Adobe Connect, and that way you'll be able to chat live time. We can't do that necessarily here with 100 people or and those online, because we're webcasting, but we can do that through a platform. And not only have I seen this really be successful in other areas where we've been doing it at OPM, but you get to see what your fellow colleagues are saying as well. and able to really kind of chat with them, and people are putting comments in there. And we like that because we don't have all the information. You all have some really good thoughts and ideas and information, and we can capture that too as we're in the webinar. And so these are some of the topics and some of the competencies that we really want to cover in this series. And so one is D&I in the workplace. It talks about inclusive policies, onboarding procedures. How is D&I embedded in your onboarding procedures? Diversity in agency development programs like the SES development program. Then we'll talk a little bit about the D&I practitioner skills. What are the skills that you really need, like storytelling? Really big now when you're trying to be persuasive and getting leadership attention. You want to be able to utilize some processes and some ideas of ways that you can do that. And one of the things that we saw trending was like storytelling. You know, how can you create that business case for diversity and inclusion by telling some stories that would really invoke attention from your leaders, as opposed to just going in there and kind of what we call throwing up D&I on them. Talking about things that really matter to our leaders and using the right strategy is really important. And that's a skill, right? It's a facilitation skill that we think all practitioners should really refine. Let's talk about D&I knowledge. So the third one is D&I knowledge on some of the hiring authorities. We're still finding that many of the practitioners aren't really skilled in knowing what is a Schedule A hire. You know, if you're helping and assisting and embedding D&I within that hiring process, do you know everything you need to know about the hiring authorities? So we want to, again, fill your toolkit with these kinds of things. The next one is strategic partnerships, building relationships with EEO and HR. This is big. This is one thing that we were still hearing about, even in some of our focus groups that we're hearing about, still creating a delineation between EEO. Where does EEO end and D&I pick up? Or how do we collaborate? What's the gray area? What does that actually look like? And so we'll talk more about that, provide you some information that we're providing to some of the agency through our technical assistance. So that's big. D&I trends. We're actually going to start the conversation on that today. And we really want to talk about something that's trending right now. And I think that would be of interest to all of you. So we'll start that conversation today, but continue it as well through our I.D.E.A.S sessions. Then D&I program operations. Business case, PDs, branding, ERGs and affinity groups, D&I councils, all of those things that help for your D&I operations and sustainability. And then metrics. Oh my goodness, metrics. We're going to start talking about metrics. I think that's top of mind for everybody. Like, how do I measure success? What does that look like? We're making a lot of strides and efforts, and we're doing a lot, but how do we know and how can we show that? How do we know that we're doing the right things, and how can we show that? So these are just some of the areas, and we believe that in D&I there needs to be a level of competency in all of those areas in order to lead effectively. So we're going to do that through our ideas. We just wanted to kind of begin to socialize that with you, hopefully begin to launch that in Q2. So be on the lookout for that. Any questions about that? Was that clear? All right. So we're going to jump right into our next segment, and I want to give you an update really quick on the FEORP. So is everybody working on their FEORP report and making sure that it's submitted on time? Yes? Yes or yes? Well, we had a few agencies contact us about extending and asking for an extension, and we will grant those until when? December 31st. Please, 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 try to work hard on getting the, it's the same report every year. It hasn't changed. No surprises there, unless you're a pilot agency, right? And so let me talk briefly about the pilot. And we mentioned this last time, and Jacqueline Padron on my staff is the one leading this effort. And she mentioned this last time in August, and what we're proposing to do, and we're working with about 6 pilot agencies right now on this proof of concept. And what it is we are looking at ways that we can become more effective and efficient and lessen the burden on federal agencies when it comes to reporting. That should be exciting for all of you. Because we want to have more time to do the things that really, really are impactful, right? I won't say that reporting doesn't matter. It matters. We have to be able to show where we're having successes, and we have to be accountable, right? We have to be accountable. But it also can be very burdensome, and we recognize that. So here's what we're doing with what we call the FED tool, the Federal Employment Diversity Tool. It combines the FEORP report, the DVAP report, and the Pathways report into one electronic platform. We are asking questions of agencies that that actually meet the requirement of all of the regulations, the executive orders, and everything that is covered there. So the executive order on Hispanics, the executive order on individuals with disabilities, the Title V, all of those, right? And we combined all of that into about 85 questions. And so it makes it really easy, as opposed to, written narrative on everything. You're able to meet the requirement by answering those questions and submitting. And so we have 6 pilot agencies right now. We're going to be getting feedback from them after they've completed their submissions, and we'll be essentially each fiscal year adding more people to the pilot. We just we're looking at changing the platform, so the platform will actually be even more sophisticated to be able to submit your certification forms online and all of those things. So we're looking at really automating what was previously a manual type of accountability. So we're excited about that, and we're already kind of getting some feedback from some of our partners. Is anybody who's doing the pilot, is anybody in the room here? Yeah. Oh, DHS, yes. Hopefully it's going well. Who's that? Oh, okay. All right. So, so DHS, we have DHS, we have NASA, NSF, goodness, it's escaping me now, of course, because I'm... Yes, but we have expanded it since EPA participated, and I think, Michael, because you left, they decided not to continue with us, but they were, VA, I'm sorry, VA is participating as well, and I can't read your lips, Cherokee, sorry, I'm trying to, OPM, how could I forget? OPM, here, she's saying here, Allison. So OPM is participating as well. So, so those are our pilot agencies that we're going to be able to, really hear from them what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to tweak before we roll this out to the entire federal community, right? We're going with some of our partners that have trusted in us to, be a test of this, but it hopefully lessens their burden too, and in particular for DHS that has all the components and have to roll up into the to the department level. That could be very complicated. So just wanted to, for transparency, just share with you all some of the things that we have going on and that we're really excited about. But for those of you, and the majority of you, who are still in the old reporting format, we expect you to submit on time or either ask for an extension. So wanted to make sure that you're doing that. Any questions? Sure. Can we get a mic for...
How soon will the pirated results come
Okay, so the question was, how soon will the pilot results come back? So they're submitting by January 31st, and then we need time to kind of distill the data and get feedback from them. So hopefully, we will be getting that in Q3, and then by Q4, we would be able to determine moving it over to the new platform and being able to add new agencies to the pilot and continue to roll that out like that. So that's the plan. And that's what I can give you right now. Thank you, Natalie. Okay, so we want to move on. I'm going to turn it over to Natalie, who's going to give you some information and a resource on a fantastic internship program that is a great resource for you.
Hello. How are you? Oh, yes, good. So how many agencies here have robust internship programs? A few, okay. How many only get interns in the summertime? How many have interns all year long? Oh, a couple. Okay, so before I tell you a little bit about Cultural Vistas, I want to first say that OPM does not endorse any internship programs. So is Natalie saying this is the only internship program? Is Natalie saying you must use this program? Natalie is introducing a resource that has benefited her organizations over the years very well. And every time I talk about it, everyone's like, I didn't know about that. So I decided today to come and tell you about it. We okay? All right. So it's the Cultural Vistas program. I'm supposed to do that myself. Right. So they've been around for a while. The one thing that I think really matches to what we're doing within our agencies is that the internship program is an exchange organization promoting global understanding and collaboration amongst individuals and institutions. Sounds a lot like what we do, right? So the program in and of itself is really simple. So Cultural Vistas is the umbrella organization. Within it, they have at least 20 different programs. We're only familiar with the Korea West, meaning I've only had interns from the Korea West portion. If this doesn't look like it applies to you, I encourage you to go to culturalvistas.org and see if their other programs have students that would more fit the mission of your organization. Does that make sense? So, but Korea West is fabulous. So Korea West is where I think I've been a supervisor, host, intern for about 6 years now. I probably have had about 14 different students, and literally all of them have been fabulous. Every last one of them. So that's why I'm endorsing the use of internship programs, not Cultural Vista specifically. Right? All right, so in their host, in South Korea, they are nominated and they have to compete within their country with the Ministry of Education for this opportunity. And so recent graduates, they've had at least 2 years of coursework in South Korean universities. All the ones that I've been the supervisor of have been either in their last year and have like 1 semester left, or they've actually recently graduated before they come and do this program. They participate in a 3-month intensive language institute, either in DC, New York, San Diego, or San Francisco, prior to starting their internship. So come to America, 3 months, they're in intensive language studies, and then they're placed in host organizations for different level programs. So this is kind of small, but they have a 4-month program, a 2-month of English study, and then they do 4 months of an internship, or 2 months of English, and then an 8 to 12-month internship, and then 1 month of travel, and 1 month of travel. So there's 2 kind of tracks. There's a short track and a long track. What are the benefits of each? The 4-month track, you get more than 1 student in the course of a year, right? But that student is only with you for 4 months, pretty much. The 8 to 12-month internship program allows the student to actually be within your organization for 6 to 8 months, working every day. So we just have our newest intern. I'd like him to come on down at this time. Come on down, Pill. And he just started this week. Come on. And so understand, he's had 3 months of intensive language institute, and he's been here like a week, but not really. He just actually got his badge today. So he's prepared a short speech.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pil Junjong. It's a little bit difficult to pronounce my name, so just call me Pil, P-I-L. I'm still a university student majoring in global business administration. As Natalie already explained about the WEST program, I was selected for the representative of Korea. And that's why I was able to come to the USA and introduce myself right now. First of all, I'm very happy to have the opportunity to work in this big federal government OPM, especially D&I department. Because of the secret process, today is the officially first day of my work. I got a badge also today. However, I have been watching how my team works for the last 2 weeks, and I'm really impressed to see my team member works. I thought that is the real team. I mean, they were really passionate, enthusiastic, and creative. That's a synergy at work. That's the American workplace that I thought before. So this internship opportunity will be a valuable experience in my life, as well as my career. I'm still awkward and unfamiliar with my work yet, but I promise I will do my best for my team and my task. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
First day, folks. First day, right? So I didn't pay him to write that. I didn't. But as you can see, the students are really exciting. So I did want to put in a good word. So the first intern that we had here at OPM, she was here with the long-term program, and she left last December, and maybe around June or July. So understand that employment of entry-level professionals in South Korea is highly competitive. And so there's a high rate of unemployment there amongst college graduates. And so Ju Young left in December. They have a lot of testing and things that they do in order to even get a job. But in June or July, she was able to land a job with Ferragamo in their HR department. And when I asked her, I said, how did you think it went? And she was like, it was because of my global experience coming to America and working particularly in diversity and inclusion that landed. It set her apart from other applicants. And so I share that because here's the thing. To be a host of this program, it's no cost to agencies. You just have to sign up. So let me say it again. There's no cost. There's no cost to agencies to participate. I called and told them y'all are going to be calling them. So they're waiting for you to call them to become a host for this program. But there is a give back. You have to be willing to give them experiences that will help them once they go home get jobs that they're prepared to do. And so I encourage you to find meaningful developmental assignments for them. First day, he's in front and center at the microphone, okay? So give them opportunities that will enhance their language studies and complement their university coursework, because that is what they need in order to move forward. So the Korea West program specifically is designed for these fields, okay? But like I said, if those fields don't match your mission area, please take a look at cultural visas, other things, and don't limit yourself to just this one program in any way. Yes.
How are you able to get around the citizenship question?
Good question, thank you. So this relationship with cultural visas is with the State Department. So they provide their J-1 visa And so security is a little bit more open because they go through a process with the State Department. This company is with the State Department first, and then they push them out to host internships. So I would encourage you, if your agency, particularly, like he said, it took us a couple weeks to get him on board because of security, to first meet with your security folks on how the process would work and getting them onboarded, because not every agency is able to do so. Thank you, Sharon. Yeah, let me finish and then I'll ask a couple questions. So really quick, I tell you, those are the top fields. You have that in your slides. Why become a host? The number one reason is that it enriches your workplace. And this is, my hosting student earn terms for up to 12 months. They come to this area. DC has a lot of attractions for them to see, free museums on the weekends. Pill, I think, has been to everywhere I've ever wanted to take my children on vacation in 3 months. He's already done the whole American tour, Grand Canyon. He's been to the Florida Keys. I mean, just everywhere. So they really absorb and take advantage of this opportunity to see all of America. And I just encourage you to, point out things that may be America that's not necessarily, in the tourist handbook, but would also be culturally enriching. I take them home to my little sleepy town and show them what rural America looks like, because it's fun. And so any questions, the information's in your handbook. Like I said, I did let them know in advance that I was talking about this today and that federal government agencies may be calling and asking questions, and that's why they gave you their email. So please don't email Natalie about the program. Contact Cultural Vistas, because they are the ones who can help you specifically about how to become a host with them. Now I'll take questions. Yes, ma'am. Can she use the mic, please? Mm-hmm. It's not working. Yeah. So good question. So the program flyer that you have kind of explains all of that, but the question that she had was, what about the housing of the students? And all of that is a part of their Cultural Vista package. So they are to provide their own or find their own housing. They provide. It's difficult, but we can't provide them with federal benefits. So whereas you would be nice, like, oh, let's give them a transit subsidy. You can't. Their visa will limit the things that you can give them because they're not federal employees. They're not even contractual employees. They're interns. And they receive a stipend outside of the federal government. We're just a host site for them to gain experience. So when I say no cost, there's no cost and you can't give certain things. So, but the program itself will let you know all of those things once you decide to become a host.
I have a question.
Yes.
So this program I'm interested, and I know not to call you.
Thank you.
So I've learned that much. So here's a question. Does OPM have a website of the latest internship programs that we can just click and not go to Natalie, but go to where we need to go?
No.
Lesson
and
learned.
So the answer is no, but so this is not, like I said, this is not an endorsement. How many of you have had haiku interns? Right. So we all know of the traditional demographic-related student internship programs. Those are still available. We still encourage you, if your agency can do so, to use those to enforce or increase the diversity of your workforce. This is just an example of another one. I will tell you, all their students are from South Korea. They have other programs that actually have a little bit more diverse populations, that may be of interest to your organization. That's why I say we're not buying into one thing. I'm introducing you to Cultural Vistas that have multiple programs that may be a better fit for where your organization is and where it needs to go. But this is not a recruitment tool because most of these students have to go back to their countries. Okay, so understand that. I wouldn't put this with a recruitment plan. Okay, that's it. All right, so the next in our inform area, we have work-life leadership. Oh, that's not next. I'm sorry, I have it all backwards. Carlos, I missed it. Carlos, my friend, my compadre, he is gonna come down and talk to you about recruitment policy and outreach. Also here in the Office of Outreach, Diversity, and Inclusion, come on down. Sorry. There's your clicker for the next one.
Oh, cool. Sorry. Good morning, everybody. How y'all doing today? Where's Pill? Pill, first of all, welcome. Second, don't worry. I've been here 10 years, and I still feel awkward about what I do, so it's all good. We'll get there. I wanted to take a few minutes to speak with you today about some assistance that we can offer your agencies. It's actually been out there for some time, but it's just sort of a reminder that I'd like to share with everyone today. First of all, again, my name is Carlos Del Toro, and I'm with Recruitment Policy and Outreach here at OPM. And there are three things that we regularly engage in that I'd like to remind you so that you can take back to your folks in case this can be helpful to them with regard to your recruitment efforts in your agencies. One of the things is that we do regular technical assistance in terms of supplementing things that you're already doing at your agency. You know, you're obviously the experts at what you need in terms of the people who are going to be fulfilling your mission. So you already have strategies in which you engage in the day-to-day to try to find the right people for your jobs. Sometimes in the course of doing that, it's helpful to have an outside perspective on other strategies. You know how it is. You kind of get into a rut, and then sometimes you don't get quite the results you're looking for, and maybe you don't get quite the quality of candidates that you're looking for, and it helps to have another observer to help you to kind of supplement what you're already doing. So what we do with regard to technical assistance is we have a consultation with you, and we speak with you and find out with any given recruitment effort, what are you currently doing? What's working? What's not? The things that are working, obviously you want to continue to strengthen that and keep doing those things because those are getting you results. But there may be some other things that you haven't quite thought of that because we are in a position, we OPM, we're in a position to be dealing with a lot of agencies. We tend to see best practices and some strategies that work that you may not have thought about or that you may have forgotten, and you could use a reminder. So we consult with you, we find out what's working, what's not. We offer some additional strategies that you might use. We'll have a follow-up with you. If we need to, we can get together with one of your teams, and we can do what's known as a human-centered design exercise. Anyone familiar with human-centered design? Many of you, right? So we literally get together, and it's a very high-level brainstorming session dealing with a specific issue or issues, and then you come up with a series of strategies based on that process, and then you could take it from there and actually spring into action to take steps to better your recruitment. So that's one thing that we can do on an ongoing basis. Just let us know, contact us, and I'll tell you where in a few minutes. But there are a couple of other things that you're probably familiar with and you don't even know it. One of them is this Recruitment Professional Development Series. We used to, when this began, we used to call this series of briefings Recruitment Boot Camp. Anyone participate in Recruitment Boot Camp? Many of you did. So you know that it's a series of really in-depth briefings on specific recruitment-related topics. That's things like how to put together a job opportunity announcement that really speaks to people, right? Because you could put a lot of abstract stuff that doesn't get you really great results, or you can be more strategic about it, get things in the announcement that'll be really attractive to folks and that'll market your agency, and that will help you to attract people as compared to other people who are looking for the same skill sets, right? So things like campus recruitment, tips that we can give you about working with career services folks and individuals on campus. Branding your agency, in other words, what kind of messaging are you sending out there to try to promote the services and the positions that you're trying to recruit for? Onboarding, what is a really good onboarding program? What does that look like? Is it just orientation? No, right? There's a lot of things that go into the onboarding process to get people acculturated to your agency and to get them up and running and into productivity as soon as possible. And then there are other things we do. As a matter of fact, a couple of days ago, I just did the first part of 3 briefings on effective skills for successful federal recruiters that concentrates on what we term soft skills, right? Because you have all the technical aspects of things, but then you also have things like, how do you communicate with folks? How do you network? How do you deal with folks in job fairs and information sessions and the like? And I just did the first one a couple of days ago. I have 2 more coming up. Okay, so these are briefings that will really help you fill in the gap in terms of the knowledge of different areas related to recruitment, and we offer those on a regular, recurring basis. We put a schedule out. We usually send that out by means of a staffing listserv, and if you need to contact us, we can give you more information on how to do that. And then, of course, we offer train-the-trainer sessions, particularly in areas that are fairly obvious but not always easy to communicate to folks. Things like, how do you navigate USA Jobs, or something as simple as that, but yet, because USA Jobs changes rather frequently with improvements that they make, how do you best communicate that information on how to find and apply for federal jobs? How do you prepare a federal resume that gets you good results as compared to preparing a resume, let's say, for the private sector, which is quite different. There are nuances there that you need to know about. And how do you interview? What are the best ways you can prepare for an interview, and what do you do during the interview, et cetera? These are things that are fairly obvious, but we could give you more information about how to communicate that information to your clients. If you're, having folks come to the agency, or if you're doing job fairs, or if you're doing information sessions at colleges, how do you best present that information? So we offer train-the-trainer sessions to help you do that. So these are all the kind of things that I really believe can help enhance your recruitment programs. If you want more information on any of this, you can contact us at, it's not listed here, I apologize, at recruitment@opm.gov, very simple. Recruitment@opm.gov, okay? So at any point, send us an email, and we'll get back with you and answer any questions that you may have. Is there anything that I can review or clarify regarding anything I just mentioned? Yes, ma'am. Sure. So the question is, can I go over the recruitment professional development series, how it's delivered, et cetera? Okay, so we can do, these are typically 1 hour, and in some cases 1.5 hour, depending on the length of the module. An hour to 90-minute modules that focus on that specific topic, and we can do that either in person upon request or virtually. More often than not these days, we do it virtually. But if you have a specific, if you want to get a bunch of people in the room and we can work that out ahead of time, we can do that as well. And it's basically in lecture format, but we also have a certain level of interaction, particularly if you do virtually. You can have a chat box going, and people will be communicating with one another, and it'll be just a focused discussion on that particular topic, one of the many that you see here, so that by the time you leave that, you have a very good sense of what you can do to improve. They're very practical in nature. It's not it's not reading a bunch of bullet points from a PowerPoint slide and just kind of like going through the same, thing over and over again, abstract type of stuff. It's very pointed, very specific types of information. For example, in the one I did the other day about effective skill sets for the soft skills, I spoke very specifically about how you can prepare for recruitment. How do you, get to know your organization better and the specific positions, and how do you convey that to the public? Very practical, action-oriented steps that you can take, and that's the way that we do that. Another question?
Hi, good morning, Carlos.
Morning.
This is probably an intersection between the last segment on internships and then recruitment outreach. So I'm curious, from a policy standpoint, have you first heard of the program Skills Bridge for military veterans who are transitioning from active duty to retirement? Probably not. Okay. The reason I raised that is there's a program right now for military veterans who are transitioning. DOD will actually fund their internship at agencies so they can get civilian experience right as they're about to retire. Okay. We're trying to figure out the policy piece. So I was trying to figure out if OPM has established an MOU with DOD, if they're aware about that. And why I'm bringing it up under recruitment is we hear a lot about recruitment outreach, but we're really trying to figure out how do you get a return on investment for all the recruitment, right? So if you go out to minority serving institutions, what policies are in place that we can actually yield some results from that outreach in terms of bringing them in through pathways or other? So has your organization thought beyond sort of getting out and recruiting, but how do you actually yield some results from those outreach efforts? Okay,
I'll let Allison tackle that.
Oh, well. Thank you, Carlos. I was going to say some other things, but thank you, Tanisha. Actually, I just got a phone call from somebody about the Skills Bridge. Is So I think that's what it's called, right? Program that is a one-year program as those in the military are newly retired and they're looking to transition into the workplace. They, DOD will actually pay for 1 year internship, whether it's private sector or even in the federal government. From what I understand, they sent me information on it because they were looking for a host agency to host them for a 1 year internship, and they wanted to intern in diversity and inclusion. So someone gave her my name and she contacted me. So that is like very new on my list to look into, because I was not sure whether or not we could actually host her. And so I needed to look into it and everything. And then also we have a different set of rules for us folks here at OPM as well. But it is a great resource, and it is another resource for those of us who are looking to bring someone in our organization who, again, like the Cultura Vista and the Korea West program, we may not necessarily keep them and onboard them, and it may not be necessarily a recruitment tool, but it is a way that we can bring innovative ideas and those kind of things and be that conduit for that person in their career. So we see it as public service, whether they stay with our agency or move on to another agency. We definitely want to look into various ways to bring on folks into the federal government. So that was one thing new, and haven't had a chance to really look into it, so I don't have an answer for you today, but I have that on my list of things we need to look at in terms of recruitment policy. So, yeah. And you had another part to there was a second part to your question though, Tanisha. It was around return on investment, and maybe that's something as to whether or not we're looking at what is the utility of it? What's the value of having these different recruitment tools, and have we looked at that? And is that one thing that you all have assessed within RPO?
I don't think we've done that specifically, but if that's something that will be helpful to you, we could certainly do that. And you mentioned also about veterans that are, the transitioning veterans. You might also want to check with our veteran services folks, because they have extensive experience dealing with transitioning veterans, and they might have some things that they've also done or in the works doing that they can help you with. And the only other thing I'll add as well is that we do, in terms of measuring success, what's working, what's not, return on investment, et cetera, we do have a module of the professional development series that specifically deals with recruiting analytics, which is, I'm sure, broad in nature, but I'm absolutely sure it can be applied in the way in which you're mentioning it. So that's something that we could take a closer look at. Okay. Does that answer your question? Excellent.
All right.
Yes, sir. That's good. Anything else? Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Carlos. Were you all familiar with the services that, so was that helpful? Great. So here's the thing. When we reorged, because they actually were not part of the Outreach, Diversity, and Inclusion Center at first, we are now 3 program areas, and I have to keep saying this because sometimes people don't have organizational awareness of how we're organized here at OPM. But it's 3 program areas in Outreach, Diversity, and Inclusion. The D&I program, which I'm the program director, Carlos is in the Recruitment Policy and Outreach program area, and then we have Veteran Services. So I'm still learning, too, about what value and what services each of those areas bring. And I just want to put a plug for RPO, because we collaborated with them on the last technical assistance that we did for Social Security Administration, and they were able to provide us, they were working on, Social Security wanted some recommendations on their recruitment framework, and they were working on and wanted some input from us. So we collaborated with the RPO team. They were able to provide Social Security Administration with a talent acquisition SWOT analysis on things that they should look for in developing their recruitment framework. And yeah, it was really good, and it went over really well. And so I just really want to put a plug for the team. I think they have some great resources that I think is underutilized by many of our federal agencies. So I wanted them to come today and share that with you all as D&I practitioners, and how we need to collaborate more with our recruitment folks in HR. Yes or yes? So, and I want to bring up another one of my colleagues. So within Employee Services, hold on just one second, Shane. Yes, we have a question.
Allison, I don't know if this question
So we have to be on the mic because we're webcasting. So if you just hold for the mic.
Allison, I don't know if this question would be for you or for Carlos, but under the professional development series for campus recruitment, and this kind of touches on what the lady was mentioning a moment ago, is there a component in that curriculum that addresses how agencies can actively recruit on campuses to augment their existing internship programs that they may have with the Washington Consulting Center or the Hispanic Association of College Universities, and to discuss how we can transition those interns into full-time employees to address the return on investment for federal internships?
Okay.
Yeah, that goes pretty in-depth into campus recruitment and speaks about interns. I'd have to double-check the latest iteration of that to see if there's a specific component that deals with internships, but I'm certain that if you bring that up during the course of that session, we can discuss that, because the things in there are very general prompts, but we can, we talk about a 3-tiered system, for example, to try to determine what colleges you should visit and what things are bringing the best return on investment, so that you could strategically go to colleges and go to the right ones and make sure that you're covering the right areas, et cetera. So internships are going to be a big part of that discussion. I don't know if we have a specific component that goes that much in the weeds, but I know that it's something that in the course of doing that session, you could bring that up and you can have that discussion right at that moment. So.
Okay, great. Yeah, definitely. Okay, so Outreach, Diversity, and Inclusion Center is located within Employee Services in OPM. And our fellow colleagues here from our SESPM, and forgive me if I do not know what that stands for. I'm still getting organizational awareness when it comes to, to OPM. But we have with us Sheila Vergas Osuna, and she is a personnel research psychologist within SESPM, OPM, and she's going to share with us information on the work-life program, leadership and executive development, and employee engagement.
Okay, thank you so much, Allison. Thank you for inviting us to talk to you today about our office and what we do and what we have to offer to all federal agencies. SESPM, Senior Executive Service Performance Management. That's what it stands for. Within SESPM, our group, we are the Work-Life and Leadership and Executive Development Group, or team. Our mission, we just created a new mission recently that we are excited to share with you. And our mission is to empower federal agencies to develop excellent work-life and leadership development strategies and solutions. Like the D&I office, like the outreach office, we offer technical assistance, we develop resources for practitioners at agencies to help you, like Allison mentioned at the beginning, to help you learn how to fish. Within our office, it's pretty, it sounds like work-life and leadership and executive development, but within that, we have the work-life side. The work-life side of our team, this is what we do. We manage the government-wide telework program. We manage the employee assistance programs, family independent care, health and wellness. So we can help you to formulate strategies, to help you how to build that business case for your work-life programs. This is part of what we do. We develop trainings for practitioners. I know many of you wear multiple hats. The most recent trainings that we've had, we had trainings for practitioners on telework, on employee assistance programs. We have one coming up. I believe that one is going to be about EAP. The one that we just had was family independent care, I'm sorry. We also work, employee engagement is part of our portfolio, and how we tie employee engagement to work-life and leadership development. Both work-life and employee development are drivers of employee engagement. So this is how we tie everything into one umbrella. I think I look at employee engagement as the glue of all of our the programs that we manage. We do a lot of research, so all of the tools and resources that we develop are based on the research that we conduct. Before I go into the most recent tool that we developed, our leadership and executive development side of the house, within that, we work with training and development programs, federal supervisory, managerial, and executive training, SES, candidate development programs. This is the program that people can go into if they want to become an SES, and succession management. We also manage the PMC program, the Presidential Management Council. I know many of you are familiar with this program with rotations across government, the Federal Coaching Network, and SES Situational Mentoring Program. So we do a lot, and we have a lot to offer. And like Allison said, many times agencies are not aware of all the services that OPM has to offer. One of our most recent resources that we developed for agencies was within the employee engagement. We are working with the Presidential Management Agenda, and based on the research that we've been conducting, we recently developed a toolkit for supervisors. And although you hear toolkit for supervisors, this is a toolkit that anyone can really use. Within this toolkit, we developed 4 guides that go into different topics related to employee engagement. Anywhere from how to analyze your FEVS data and combine that data with other data points to generate trends and look for information on what's going on in terms of employee engagement within your organization. The second guide is about how to take that data and get more input from your employees, how to present that data to your employees and to your workforce in order to get some additional feedback. The third one is about action planning, how to put together action plans. And it doesn't have to be necessarily about FEVS. You can use these guides really for anything, from a diversity and inclusion perspective, to put together trainings, workshops for your supervisors. The fourth guide, I believe, is probably the one that is the most, I don't want to say useful, but has the most impact, and it's called Leadership for Engagement. On this guide, we present strategies that supervisors can use to start these developmental conversations with their employees. There are coaching questions that supervisors can use. And just to give you an example, yesterday, OPM conducted a training for OPM supervisors, and they took this guide and made it into part of the training, showing supervisors how they can, by asking questions, start developing these relationships with their employees. Something I think, and this is not on my slide, but something that was mentioned before about return on investment. We have a guide on return on investment for work-life programs. And Corey, my manager, is here. Correct me if I'm wrong. This guide can really be used in other areas. So I encourage everyone to go, and I believe that's under opm.gov. When you go to policy, work life, there are resources in there, and you should be able to find this guide. Or Allison, if anyone is interested, I can send you the link later today. But for the employee engagement toolkit that I'm talking about on the Wiki, you can either, if you have the electronic version of the slides, you can click on the link and it's going to take you directly to the toolkit. If you have your phone today, you can just scan the QR code, and that also is mobile friendly, so you can just go there and take a look at what we have to offer. If you want to reach out to us, our email address, we have multiple email addresses, but I personally manage the workforce engagement at opm.gov. So if you have any questions, if you need assistance with any of the programs that I just mentioned, just please feel free to reach out, and we'll be happy to work with you, help you generate ideas, build that business case, or whatever you need. And Peel, welcome to OPM, and I'm inviting you to come to our group and learn from what we do. We would love, for you to learn what we do in our office. So any questions? Not? Thank you so much, Allison, for inviting me.
Thank you, Shayla. So how many of you all knew about that? Again, this is, for our last technical assistance, we reached out to Corey and his team because they were asked, they had an employee engagement initiative they were doing. They wanted some feedback on it, in particular the inclusion piece. But during that collaboration with Corey and his team and Shayla, we learned so much about what they do and what they're doing. I mean, again, here, we are so busy servicing all federal agencies out there, that it's sometimes we don't even talk to one another. And so I want to know, in the room at least, how many of you all are collaborating with your employee engagement folks? Yes? Oh, okay. Okay, good. Because this is what we should be doing, right? Because we want to make sure that diversity and inclusion is really embedded in some of those things. And we know through research that inclusion is a major driver of employee engagement. And so as we were providing technical assistance to one of the agencies we were working with, we saw value in really what OPM is doing. And we wanted to give them an opportunity to share that with you all today. So hopefully you find that valuable too. And you take it back to, your agencies, as Shayla mentioned, that some of the guides and things that she has within the toolkit that they created would actually be useful for us in the D&I piece as well. So please, by all means, take a look at all of the resources there that's available. They have some amazing things. And the webinars they're doing, they are archiving them also on the Wiki, so you'll find all of their webinars there that are archived, and so if you missed them, they're there. And so they did an employee engagement series, and those were sent out to people who are on the listserv, so if you're not, then you need to get on it, right? Okay, but thank you again for being with us today and sharing that with our community here. And again, we'll get you those resources that Shayla mentioned, and if you're interested, you can always email diversityandinclusion@opm.gov. So on to our last segment. And we mentioned, I'm going to have Natalie come on up with me. Okay. All right. I'm going to have my right hand here with me. She adds a little excitement and inspiration, I think. She does that for the team, and so I just can't tell you how excited. Before I do that, speaking of the team, Shayla mentioned the President's Management Council Fellowship, and I want to introduce Tiffany Reed. She is our PMC Fellow, and we have her until March. And Tiffany is an amazing addition to our team. It was kind of like Match.com, if you will. Like, she chose us, we chose her, we swiped right, she swiped, so. Anyway, so we were so excited to have her. We interviewed several candidates, and it can't just be us choosing her, right? She has a say in this as well. And this is a leadership development opportunity for her. So she works at DHS. DHS is in the room, yes. We have her for a little while, yes. And so what she brings to our office and that different perspective from the agency level, and D&I, they don't match you with something that, she has IT background actually. And so she brings a different lens to our office, and actually she is working on a special project around diversity and inclusion education and how we're going to roll that out to the community. And this is kind of her capstone project, if you will, and looking at various ways that we can educate based on really how the adult learns and all of that. And so she's also a PhD candidate working on her PhD. We have an amazing resource now in our office, at least until March. And we're happy to have her. So I did want to introduce her to you all as well. Fantastic team. This is my right hand, Natalie. And she brought Pill to the office as well. This is our third Korea West intern. I'm so excited to have him. I really have to say, I never knew about it before I came to OPM as well. And I've been so impressed with the interns that we have had and the successes that we have seen as a result of their work, not just with us, but just, having that opportunity. And as diversity and inclusion practitioners, we should be looking for that, right? That's what we should be modeling. So another, shameless plug for the program. So this is our Power Up segment, and this is where we really want to inspire you and leave you not just an information dump, right, in this meeting, but we really want to engage with you in an intentional way. And in our Power Up segment is a way to not only share some innovative thoughts around that, but really use this as a think tank now too. And today, we want to really engage with you on an article that we came across in June, and I brought it to the team, and this is something that we should really be looking at. And it was an article that was released by Brookings. And these are the things that, as practitioners, we need to be thinking about. We need to be reading up on. We need to be proactively thinking about as we're developing our programs, as we're developing our strategic plans. We need to be forward thinkers. And we need to be facing forward, looking into the future, and meeting those needs. And this is to begin that conversation, to provoke some thought in you all as we start to think about how do we meet the needs of building that 21st century workforce. Because what we don't want to do is lead from behind. And we're already kind of looking to private sector for certain things. Why couldn't we be the ones where this next generation is looking to come work for us? We need that, right? So let me tell you briefly about this. I'm going to kind of bounce back and forth between Natalie and I. We'll talk about some of the discussions we had, and then we want to hear from you, okay? So the title of the Brookings article was "Less than half of U.S. children under 5 are white." 15. Under 15 are white, the census now shows. Okay, for the first time, non-Hispanic white residents now make up less than half, which is 49.9, of the nation's under age 15 population from the newly released 2018 census. Increasing racial diversity of the nation's overall population, for which non-Hispanic whites now comprise only slightly more than 3/5 of all residents. So I just want to introduce that. Times are changing, yes or yes. We're seeing this demographic shift. So those 15-year-olds now, in the next 4 years or even 3 years, will be entering the workplace. Large majority of them Gen Z, right? Very different needs, very different values, and we have to be able to attract and retain them as well, right? And we need to be prepared for that. We as practitioners need to be thinking about this. We need to be looking at what are some ways that we can develop retention or recruitment strategies for a population that is growing, that is non-white, right? So there's some other interesting things that we want to point out in the article, and we can also share the link with you, because there's tons of data in here that I think that we can't, read the article to you all, but we want to share with you some of the highlights.
So before I get into that, we want this to be a discussion. We have 2 mics. You have to speak into the mic for people on the webcast, and we'll go back and forth. Carlos has a mic for this side. I'll stay on this side. When you say your name and your agency, if you feel comfortable. If you don't want to say your name, at least say your agency so that others on the phone can see who's represented here. But we do want this to be a discussion. We ask that you keep your comments 1 to 2 minutes. We all know each other. This is not a grandstand moment. This is a dialogue moment, right? I keep things in order, and I give it to you straight. So we really want to have a conversation around this topic. And so you have to understand that millennials, in the article, it was amazing that currently millennials are like 70% white, right? And then it went on to show that other generations are less. It decreases over time. And so what does that say about our workforce? Has any other groups here looked into that? How is it affecting your strategic planning for recruitment, right? Has anyone ever looked into that? Any agencies have any data around it? It's something to think about, though, isn't it? Right? So
millennials, 55.1% white.
Right. So millennials are 55.1%, but
and Gen Xers at 60% white.
Yeah. So it seems like with every decade we're 10% less majority white. and more minority increase, what effect will that have on your workforce? What will ERGs, what will they look like 10 years from now? Right? Who's collecting black, white, and other if everybody's 2 or more races? Right? So we're not prescripting, this is a conversation. Would anyone like to join us? Come on over. I guess I'm moving over, sorry.
Hi, I'm Tracy France with the Department of Labor, Office of Inspector General. I just wanted to share a comment. I gave a briefing, a presentation yesterday, and during the leadership conference that we had at my agency, the IGs made a statement about a consortium of IGs are looking into this new competency called digital fluency. And he posed the question to our agency, the leadership there, saying, is this a competency that we need to consider moving forward, looking, like Allison said, looking forward into the future? And I will ask this question of you all, because when we talk about millennials and Generation Z, we need to acknowledge that there's this whole different set of competencies that they bring into the workforce that we weren't necessarily, I'll just share my generation, is Generation X, weren't really prepared for when I entered the workforce. So we have to consider all the different things that makes up diversity beyond race, but sometimes there's things that like almost cross, they cut across. And the digital part is one that will cut across that we need to be prepared for. Just wanted to pose that.
Thank you, Tracy.
So I wanted to give a little bit of a clarifier. This is Natalie, just for age, so that we're all on the same page. In the article, they specify that Gen Z are ages 0 to 21, millennials would be 22 to 37, Gen X would be 38 to 53, and baby boomers would be age 54 to 72. This is as of 2018. And that's just so that we're all understanding of what the ages that we're talking about in those groups.
Was that article provided in the invite? Just a general, sorry. Was that article provided in the invite? Can you share it with us?
Yeah, we'll definitely share the link with you all. Definitely, these are the kinds of things that we definitely want you all to be, keeping up with and reading. Another comment right there.
She can go first.
Okay, my name is Janelle Smith. I'm from FEMA, Office of Chief Counsel. And so my colleague and I, we are heading up the OCC Women's Forum. And a couple weeks ago, we talked about sponsorship and how our leaders need to be more aware of individuals that they can sponsor. And sometimes sponsorship is related to people who look like them, sound like them, maybe in their general community, exactly. And so if we want to make sure that folks who are at the top, maybe who are SCSers or one level below that at our agency, they need to be very broad in thinking about who they're going to sponsor, and if there's any type of idea of ageism going on, and I can't connect to a generation that's 2 generations below me, I think that's a conversation that we need to start having, because I think there's lots of slang being thrown around within teams about, oh, those millennials,
Right.
oh, those such and such.
Or stereotypes.
Yes,
right.
and so I think we have to get rid of some of that and clear some of that so that the sponsorship becomes a really good tool to bring people along.
That's really good that you talk about this when we're talking regard to mentorship and mentoring somebody who's different than us. So where do you think, and I have my own opinion on this, but where do you think the role of the practitioner is in that, of D&I? Where do you think the role of D&I is in being able to maybe assist those senior leaders in becoming more fluent or fluid and comfortable with mentoring people who are different than them? So I ask this because we want that to happen, right? We want that to happen within our mentorship programs. We just say make it happen, match them up. But what is the role of the practitioner in assisting the manager and supervisor, the leader, or is there a role? So, we thought about that.
I haven't thought about that. That's a great question.
So, okay, so
anyone else has an answer?
We have somebody else in the room? Definitely, right back here. Hello. I see Ian. Ian's here.
Thank you so much. It's too late now to not raise my hand.
Introduce yourself.
My name is Ian. I'm with SBA, but prior to that, I was with the Bureau of Land Management. And one of the things that we found in terms of a nexus was that, yes, our public lands are increasingly being more visited by like diverse cultures, and many of our public lands are like right on the outskirts of major metropolitan areas who've seen demographic shifts. And so like with our internship program, we found that, you know, this would help, you know, address in terms of that hiring pool, how can these communities talk to folks that, you know, look like them? You know, we found that it had an effect on policy. It had an effect on hiring. It had an effect on engagement. It even had an effect on the environmental impact. And so, you know, when I heard comments about how do we like form this nexus with making sure that folks have the same technological, you know, playing fields, right? But then also making sure that, you know, we can get together. And I think as a practitioner, what I found, like even in my internship program, we created like incubators where we, you know, put folks together and literally, you know, did role-playing scenarios based off of, you know, trainings that we got from either Franklin Covey or the new IQ, or just like looking at our implicit biases. And, you know, one of the things that I would like to think, I'm so sorry, I'm taking up too much time. You know, I would love to see some type of governmental-wide approach towards actually changing those kinds of behaviors, like through like our programs and seeing like what we have, especially since we all cross-pollinate. I could be at one agency one day, but yet, you know, another agency the next, you know? And so, you know, Interior may have a robust program that may not necessarily cross-pollinate, especially when it relates to direct hiring authority programs that we could use throughout the federal government. I know we talked about that a couple years ago, actually.
Yes, thank you, Ian. And I would just like to add that one of the things, we may not have a government-wide sort of one-size-fits-all, but learning more about what you did at Bureau of Land Management and at Interior is maybe helpful to the folks at FEMA, right? As they're looking at that. And so thank you for mentioning that, because that's a great way to look at supporting and sort of bridging that gap of the demographic shift that you were seeing happening in sort of some of those outlying areas, is now you're starting to see that happen. This is something that we have to look at. The mentoring program is great in and of itself, but as we're seeing that demographic shift, what are we as practitioners doing to support our managers and supervisors as well as the mentees in that effort? We can't just establish the program and think that it will be successful, because with difference comes conflict, or comes avoidance, or, you know, those kinds of things. So as the practitioner, how can we be the conduit for a successful program? Yes. Comment. She had a comment back here first, and then he had. Oh, I'm sorry, Tina. Tina had a comment next. Okay. All right.
Hi, I'm Tina Cruz Hubbard. I'm the Chief Diversity Officer at Peace Corps. For us, really, the generational issue is very present. We can be a forecaster for you, because about 96% of our volunteers fall into that age category of 18 to 34. So we're getting a real preview as to the different expectations across generations. And actually, we've used some of the data from a presentation that when you invited the U.S. Census in with some of those predictions, we've been sharing that with leadership to talk about being ready for the different expectations. And I think it's a 2028 stat that we've been using.
So hold on. So Tina, you invited in Census to talk to your senior leaders about?
No, at one of the DIG meetings, Census was invited in and presented, and we were using that to say, are we ready for this segment, particularly as some of the differences come. And we're also trying to get all of our systems ready for it, because of course, in our context, we send people all over the globe, and so there's an additional level of complexity. What I can say just anecdotally is I think there is a different level and expectation of engagement in not diversity and inclusion, but diversity, equity, and inclusion. So there's a high level of sophistication and wanting to understand what that looks like and how it is being addressed systemically, not just at recruitment, but across the entire system. I think also intersectionality within the generation is important in looking at how different populations make their decisions about employment as it becomes, as it's shifted in terms of a higher degree of racial diversity. We're seeing more collective decisions being made at the family level, if that makes sense. So we've adjusted some of our recruitment to address like what are families saying about like what's a good pathway in terms of employment, looking at different things in terms of security, et cetera. So we're trying to use both the generational things across a lot of our systems. Digital is definitely in there in terms of how does work get done. Many of, particularly Gen Z, they're submitting assignments remotely, they're working from the beach as long as they're getting their work done. And so we are needing to have intergenerational dialogues, suspending judgment about the how part, and seeing how we can shift that to efficient and effective, but maybe release a little bit of some of the
real
static
structured
stuff.
way of
Yeah.
looking at it.
Sorry if I spoke
No,
too
but
long.
thank you, Tina. Was that helpful? Yes, in what you all are doing at Peace Corps, and I know this has a direct impact on your mission as you're looking to recruit on college campuses and share for the next sort of cohort of Peace Corps volunteers that you're bringing in. The generational diversity has a direct impact on their mission, but it sounds like you're doing some amazing work there too. You want to put a plug in real quick for your...
Just to plug as well, our volunteers of full completion of service, as well as our staff after they've served, I think, for 3 years, have NCE. So we're, look to us as well for your future employment. We're an easy line to recruitment, and people who have often multilingual, who have really engaged in very complex issues as it relates to this. So.
All right, and we got...
Hi, Allison.
Yes.
Cesar Collantes. I'm a senior recruiter with the Federal Aviation Administration. I wanted to comment on your question that you posed about the article that you prefaced.
Yes.
I don't know that we all agree that the face of the workforce in the U.S. is changing. I don't know if the article addressed, which would be important to us as practitioners, of those populations, the percentage that are U.S. citizens, because as it pertains to us, unless something changed, that's a parameter that we have to deal with.
Yes.
That's number one. Number two, we all know that to make the business case of underrepresentation and to address a diversity initiative, we're going to have to make a business case, and inevitably, we're going to have to cite what is the civilian labor force of that particular group. From the last 10 years, we've had good numbers and have made, I don't think, as many strides as we could have in a decade.
Right.
So now we know that the numbers are going to change dramatically when the census is taken,
Yes.
but we also know that it will take 2 to 3 years to get the new CLF numbers available for us. So we're now looking at 2023.
Right.
And I agree, those agencies that will be out front are those that have convinced their senior executives and their leadership to look ahead, that it's coming, you've got to be ready. Put programs in place now.
Right.
If we are fortunate, the efforts that people in this room, people that have maybe left the federal government, have retired, and practitioners, similar practitioners, were successful in the last decade in diversifying the SES ranks of the U.S. federal government, we might have a chance of getting some new diversity initiative programs to go forward with a very compelling business case, because the CLF numbers are going to change dramatically.
Okay, so let's unpack that a little bit. So, thank you for your comments. But so the first part was, what percentage of these are U.S. citizens? Because we, of course, in federal government, must be able to hire U.S. citizens, right? I'll have to check on that, Natalie. It might be able to find that. So the other part was our CLF figures, right? So in this article, they actually have data that is just looking at CLF overall. And I know you're talking about the decennial census that comes out through EEOC, right? So that they use those for benchmark on the MD 715 every 10 years, all of that, and then it's going to take a while just for us to even get the latest census data. But just to Tina's point, I mean, we have census data. We do have recent census data that we can be looking at, and we don't have to necessarily wait until those CLF figures come out from EEOC as they're figuring that out and finding out the aggregate for all of US. I think there is data available. A matter of fact, there's links right within the article of data that we can be looking at. Also, what Tina was referring to, what was presented at the Diversity and Inclusion Government-Wide Council, probably 2 years ago. It was a while ago. We had folks from Census come there to start provoking some conversation around, here's what we're seeing, and we can also provide those slides, again, as we're looking at new data that will help us help provide our business case for where we're shifting. So we don't have to necessarily wait on that 10-year data that you're speaking about. I think that the article is one resource. This is one thing that I'm just using to sort of provoke this conversation. But there's many different sources out there. Within the article, they link directly to census data. We have a lot at our hands that we can use for our business case. And I don't think we should use that as a barrier to maybe not get started or begin the conversation in some way to be a little bit more intentional. And it may be different for FAA, but...
I don't want to be confused to say that we're waiting. That's not what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm saying we already have compelling numbers in the CLF.
Right.
We already have compelling numbers in the CLF from
Right.
10 years ago.
Yes, we do. And many of us haven't moved the needle from that. And imagine how much more diverse our numbers are going to be increasing in terms of non-minority, non-majority white. And so those gaps are going to be even bigger, I think.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah. Sorry, Michael hasn't come. Okay.
So this is, I've been waiting, and so I just want to circle back to what we started talking about, which was the millennials. This is Michael Nieves I'm Michael Nieves, and I am from the Office of Civil Rights at the EPA, but I have many years of experience in D&I. And so there is an article at Government Executive Magazine. It's called Why Saying Okay Boomer at Work is Considered Age Discrimination, but Millennial Put-Downs Aren't. So all you have to do is go to govexec.com and put OK Boomer. It came out this week, so it should be one of the top articles. And it's a really good read because OK Boomer is trending on YouTube. It's young people, millennials, posting videos about, I'm really concerned. So they play the part of, I'm really concerned about the, rising sea levels. And then they'll play the counterpart of the boomers saying, don't worry about it, things will get done. And then the insult is, okay, boomer. And so read the article. There's actually a video of a prime minister in New Zealand who gets heckled. She's 25 years old. And in the middle of her speech, she drops an okay, boomer to certainly a prime minister that was much older than her. Mm-hmm. But it's a really good read because it does tell you about how you should deal with there was the issue of an older person being heckled by a younger person and how the law may actually protect more the older person because they're over 40. It's a good read. It's at govexec.com, and it just came out this week.
Thank you. So again, you're talking about some of the generational differences that we're going to have to begin to discuss in the workplace. Thank you, Michael. I know we're getting short on time, so we want to get everybody's comment in. So over here.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Natalie Holder, and I'm the Chief Diversity Officer for the U.S. Capitol Police. Thank you for welcoming me and sharing this space. I want to get back to your question about the responsibility of D&I practitioners to educate and inform our senior leaders and our managers about this rising change of new millennials, people of color, everything under the sun, LGBTQIA populations that are going to be ushered into our organizations. It's important for all of us to stay the course and to continue educating and training in creative and committed ways. Because even though we will see demographic shifts, understand that our organizations have been in existence for decades, if not some organizations centuries, and where there's institutional behaviors that are ingrained. It's important for all of us to find creative ways to educate. For instance, my unconscious bias training, I had to relabel it an inclusive leadership training because I realized unconscious bias would have a certain, let's just say, reaction. So therefore, I'm using a Trojan horse to get in the message. I have speakers who come in and talk about operational issues that everyone cares about. But once again, my speakers are people who do not look like the usual suspects. It's so important to make sure our mentoring programs aren't just simply put together as, a kit in a box and move people along. We need to make sure that we're including very good substantive training that educates people about active listening, emotional intelligence, every other D&I issue that we've all tackled. So once again, stay the course, because even though we will see demographic shifts, it's so important for all of us to understand that the environments that we're in have to make sure that they provide air to the people who will be coming in who will be different.
Thank you, Natalie, and welcome to the community. I appreciate that comment because we as practitioners have to be what I call a well-calibrated tool, meaning that there is no cookie cutter way. We have to be we have to be agile. We have to be in front of the curve. We have to be looking at trends and coming about it, like she said. Sometimes we got to use that Trojan horse, right? To come at looking at who's our audience, what is the outcome we're looking to have, and what's our role in helping to educate and train in very innovative and creative ways. And if you have more, we'd love to, share a best practice or something that you're using at U.S. Capitol Police. We'd love to hear from you on that. But again, she's right in saying that we need to take a look at the role, and it's not just the typical training that we've always done that sort of checks the box, but what are the real needs so that the program is successful, right? So thank you for that. And one last comment back here.
So good morning. My name is Ashley Watson. I'm from the FBI. And at the Diversity and Inclusion section, what we've done is we've implemented 2 years ago the Cross-Cultural Mentorship Program. And that's where we take our 14s and 15s and pair them with SES level employees, and they have a mentorship for at least a year. And we've evaluated that we have 100% participation with the SESers, and they also be engaged with tools and resources on how to effectively mentor, as well as what is the pros and cons of sponsorship and what does that look like. So we've always influenced them with different resources throughout a developmental plan throughout that whole course of that mentorship to give that to our SESers as well as our mentees. This upcoming year, we decided to expand it out a little bit further to our 12s and 13s and have our 14s and 15s who are in the program mentor those 12s and 13s. That's to do that cascading effect. And throughout that whole year, we provide a developmental workshops for each of those stages to show how to effectively interview, how to prepare your resume, how to prepare for the assessments of the leadership skills in order to move them up and consider leadership. So we've done that as well. And we've also added in bias training as well as Capitol Police. We have that. We also have Bridging the Age Gap, which focuses on different ages within the workplace. And along with encompassing that whole thing into a whole bracket, it feeds into our inclusion campaign that we're launching this year, which focuses on how to make everyone feel inclusive in the workplace, no matter what they bring to the table. And that shows different facets of what inclusion looks like at all different levels, entry to senior leader level, and how does that affect our workplace in order to achieve our mission.
Wow, FBI. Now, I think that would be very useful for FEMA, yes? And this is another reason why we wanted to kind of have this open forum of hearing from your federal partners on the great things that they're doing. I'd love to talk more about what FBI is doing with their full mentorship program. That actually might be our next, we might put you on the spotlight here, because we were looking to spotlight some best practices. Would you all like to hear more about that? Yes, thank you. So let me get your card and you'll get mine. Yes, definitely. See how that works? Definitely. So we heard some great things from you all. And again, we don't have all the answers. Natalie and I just wanted to kind of provoke the thought. We knew this is a trending topic. We want to hear from how agencies are dealing with it. And if you're not, maybe you should be. We won't determine that for you. We won't be coming to do an audit to see how you're dealing with generational differences. But we put this front of mind because you wanted to hear about trends. You want us to have a conversation about that. You want these strategic partners meetings to be meaningful, to sit here and not just be information dump, but you get something out of it when you leave. You make connections with your federal partners and maybe collaborate on the next government-wide initiative like First Generation Professionals, how that was born. Excited about that because that's going to be coming to you. Yes, ma'am. We are partnering with Tanisha Agramonte at Commerce to make that a government-wide initiative. So we launched that last week. We are so excited about that. So they're going to be coming to an agency near you. And so, what's that? Coming to DOD. They're everywhere. So, and we know that that's too is an important dimension of diversity, that they bring their life experiences when they come to the workplace, and are we meeting their needs? So as D&I practitioners, we go beyond what the law requires us to look at, race and gender and all of those things, but we need to be looking at generational diversity. We need to be looking at work background experiences and life experiences and those kinds of things to meet those needs and to create the most inclusive workplace, right? So
real quick, last and final thought around this conversation. The article goes into regions. What regions are growing these diverse populations more rapidly than others? And so we'll send out the article. Don't want to spark conversation now, but it's not just, across America, where are these populations booming? The DMV is one of them. And what does that have effect on our workspaces here in the DMV area? So make sure you take a look at the article.
Thank you, Natalie. So that's it. Thank you. We will be resuming, I believe our next one is going to be in March. So happy holidays to everybody. Stay warm. It looks like the cold weather is coming, I know, here in DC. But thank you again for being active participants and for plugging into the community and being that conduit for change. And we are excited about that. Thank you so much.